Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Punching Above Weight, written by G.I. Joe Vibing. Krishmila 14 Station, Vectron System. Opening airlock in 3, 2, 1. Move! The airlock doors quickly slid out of the way, exposing the station corridor to Sergeant Fernandez's view. He threw a small wad of paper, watching its trajectory carefully to assess the gravitational situation. It landed slightly faster than it would have back on Earth, meaning that the crew had set it to a gravity more appropriate to the Hectaeans. Sergeant Fernandez pushed forward, his spacesuit boots pressing on the gravity plating. He felt the slight extra tug pulling him down, but he rapidly got used to it, having trained in it before now. Fernandez swept the corridor with his rifle, a modified German G-11 produced for the United Nations Orbital Command. Its trigger guard had been removed, so that a spacesuit's gloves could actually use the weapon, and the stock reshaped so that it wasn't as bulky. Fernandez kept moving, one foot after the other, always keeping one on the ground, until he felt his left foot being actively repulsed, the gravity plating there working to push him upwards. With a simple wiggling of his toes, the magnets in his shoes were activated, securing his right leg to the floor while he struggled to force his left leg down. "Reverse gravity belt," Fernandez reported via his radio, finally managing his left foot down against the pressure, where it locked into place. The next man in the line, Corporal Bethia, would mark the belt with tape like it was a minefield, passing the warning on to all orbital infantry who would be following up. Either the crew lacked the capacity to flip the gravity back and forth rapidly, or they weren't doing it yet. Fernandez wiggled his right toes, a signal to temporarily deactivate the magnets for his next step. This time, far more prepared, he launched the foot forwards, slamming it down as fast as possible, the magnets automatically reactivating upon contact. Was the toe wiggling system a little too complex mechanically, and took a while to learn? Yes. But in times like this, Fernandez was more than thankful for something like it. He threw another wad of paper from his pocket, finding the reverse gravity zone to continue for quite a while. "All units, Hecatane comms are disabled. They have been unable to broadcast a message. We've accessed their comms buffer, and they are still in the dark about our identity," Colonel Murray, overall commander of the mission, announced. The identification part was particularly vital. If this operation was traced back to humans, then the war, for all the effort put into it until now, would be over in milliseconds. The Hecatanes simply wiping Earth from existence with missiles traveling faster than the speed of light. The team had therefore used a stolen ship that had inspected this station previously for the Union of Alenia, the Hecatane Stellar Imperium rival, making the assault look like their fault. This wasn't an ordinary situation, you see. It was more akin to a space-borne nuclear missile submarine, hiding and ready to unleash death at any time. Instead of nuclear weapons, though, it carried those faster-than-light missiles, at least a portion of the total arsenal. The Union worked with the Imperium to check the other wasn't planning the first strike, conducting inspections irregularly to catch crews off guard. Unfortunately for the station, the most recent inspection team had run into human privateering assets, giving its location away and allowing this mission to be planned and conducted. By Fernandez's understanding, humans getting caught in this would be like if North Koreans had been caught trying to steal a nuclear missile sub, back when that sort of thing could have been an issue. If this operation worked, besides its direct consequences, he could lead the Imperium to draw resources away from their ongoing second assault on Earth, refocusing on their old rivals once more as they postured off, or maybe even fought. That was how humanity hoped to survive after all. Play the galactic giants off against each other, and quietly survive in the middle of it all. Fernandez reached a three-way junction in the corridor, spotting a sliver of movement behind a large desk that blocked up the right wood corridor. He needed to go right, leaving the corridor to his front for the other troops to mop up. Fernandez halted at this corner, switching his rifle to his left hand. The gravity still reversed where he stood. He kneeled for accuracy, then took out yet another wad of paper, throwing it towards the deck. It travelled upwards, landing on the ceiling slightly before reaching the desk itself. Fernandez trained his weapon onto that desk, trigger finger ready. 3-round burst mode active. There was a pregnant pause. Then the Hecatan head cautiously poked above the desk. 4 eyes, dark blue skin and all, looking upwards, as if he expected the attackers on the ceiling or something. Fernandez pulled the trigger, having adjusted his aim slightly downwards to account for the inverted gravity. 3 rounds, all in quick succession, sped through the air, punching neat little holes into the Hecatan's head. His blood, spurting out of the wounds, flowed downwards, before the lifeless body slumped to the floor, showing the gravity there to be the correct way around. The punch of the recoil, all delivered in one big hit thanks to the rifle's unique burst system, hit Fernandez hard, but he was properly braced. He aimed again, seeing another Hecatan moving towards the colleague, then fired again. The rounds caught the crewman in the shoulder, throwing them off balance just in time for Corporal Bethia to get off the lethal shot to the heart. 2 targets down, with 3 shifts of 3 crew and 4th emergency shift, that meant 10 left. Suddenly, Fernandez felt gravity shift, returning to putting him back down. It threw him off balance, his legs now encountering 0 resistance, and effectively causing him to drop to the floor. A 3rd Hecatan appeared, firing a plasma pistol at where Fernandez had been just a second ago, striking the wall. Fernandez fired back, unlocking his boots and charging forwards, at least as fast as he could while always keeping one foot anchored. Plasma fire came down the corridor he just left, the Hecatans clearly having planned some sort of ambush. Fully automatic fire shot back in response, a dozen guns all laying down rounds. Fernandez bowed forwards, tossing himself over the desk and towards the control room door. Corporal Bethia followed, quickly setting the thermite charge on the door. "Control room door reached, prepared to breach," Fernandez reported in, taking cover. Bethia readying the charge for activation. "Understood. All units confirmed seal status." The gunfire in the corridor slackened, returning to silence. There was the sound of a singular lawn sailing through, then a torrent of fire, followed by yet more silence. "Gold team, 1 puncture sealed," Fernandez's team leader responded. There was a reason Fernandez had a roll of tape attached to his suit. Punctures could easily be lethal in this kind of warfare. Half of Gold Team advanced up the corridor. The other half congregated near the control room door, preparing yet more charges. Red Team, no punctures. Blue Team, no punctures. "Confirmed. Begin breaching procedure. All units brace." Fernandez locked his mag boots once more, as all 5 of the thermite charges set to work, carving its way through the door. When the door was sufficiently weakened, a series of small explosive charges detonated, punching 2 clean holes straight through. "Breached!" Upon Fernandez's announcement, more explosives were detonated, this time placed by Red Team, strategically along the station. The interior was suddenly exposed to the vacuum of space, and the air supply began escaping out, including from the control center. At the same time, Blue Team cut power from the reactor, disabling the lighting and the gravity plating. Fernandez activated his spacesuit's lights, deactivating his boots, then, with one firm hand, wrested his way through one of the holes left by the charges, into the pitch-black control room. The rush of air against him did its best to force him out of the way, but with other routes out, it was nowhere near concentrated enough. Fernandez entered the room, pushing forcefully against the remnants of the door for propulsion, glided, weightless, moved. One crew member, sporting a plasma rifle, was fumbling around, caught in his lights. Fernandez fired, the intense recoil from the 3-round burst arresting his momentum and knocking him slightly off course, while the crewman he had targeted simply ceased to exist, their body floating away as blood poured out. He looked around, seeing a pair of Hecatanes rushing towards the emergency locker, having abandoned their weapons as they pushed from console to console. Clearly, they were better versed in their drills, but also not a threat. Not yet. Plasma fire came from deeper in the room, and so Fernandez swung himself around, squeezing the trigger before he even had time to properly see the target, going solely off the visible plasma launch trail. The recoil, now even more misaligned with Fernandez's direction of travel, knocked him on a collision course with a nearby wall. So Fernandez was forced to flip over, bringing his man boots up and activating them just in time to contact the wall, giving him some firm ground to work with. The emergency lighting came into effect, bathing the control room in red light. Corporal Bethia was barreling straight towards the two targets Fernandez had ignored, clearly opting to take them down non-lethally by simply slamming into them. Of the other two crew members in the room, one had tossed their rifle aside and crossed their arms, the Hecatane symbol for surrender, while another had finished putting an emergency breathing kit and was twirling around, plasma pistol ready. Fernandez didn't hesitate, firing one last burst, shredding the breathing mask and killing the Hecatane instantly. Bethia impacted with one of the two remaining Hecatanes, knocking them over. The other turned, seeing a bulky spacesuited figure heading straight for them, and ducked, then crossed their arms, marking the surrender or killing of every member of the station's crew. With that, the work could truly begin. Sergeant Fernandez, like most of his comrades, watched the station fire its payload from the ship that had carried them to it. 48 interstellar faster-than-light missiles, as they were called, simultaneously ejected from their storage bay, powering up their hyperdrives and disappearing into hyperspace. Each could ruin an unshielded planet, but these weren't aiming at planets. The station let out a single transmission, one that had been trapped inside the communication buffer, and released only now. There was not much to it, a description by the crew of the ongoing attack, and that it had been launched from an inspection vessel, one associated with the Union of Alinea. It would arrive at the comms relay before the missiles reached their target, of course, but that wouldn't matter. No warning would be enough. Finally, the station exploded, its power reactor going critical and overloading, reducing it to little more than scattered atoms. Anyone trying to piece together the events of the attack would only have the transmission, and one group would clearly deserve the blame. About a day passed before the missiles hit their targets. First, the Miratov anchorage, a deep space facility that was home to two fleets, one of which was in port and utterly destroyed in the attack. Then the Halkanov, just a light hour away from the Hecatane capital world. Besides the obvious implications of two critical parts of infrastructure being annihilated, the latter's destruction served as an incredibly visible signal that the Imperium was no longer in control of the situation, and became a massive boon to the growing rebellion within its ranks. Ironically, just a few galactic standard weeks earlier, the Union of Alinea had thought that they could manipulate humanity, a bunch of primitives as far as they were concerned, to achieve their own strategic goals against the Hecatane Stellar Imperium. It seemed appropriate that their plan would be so thoroughly ruined by those very humans. End of story. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.